The explosion tore through the western wall of the embassy compound at 0347 hours. Queen Valara of the Zithian sovereignty felt the tremor through the reinforced flooring 3 levels below ground, watched dust rain from the ceiling beams, and knew immediately that her security detail had failed. The human engineer named Marcus Chen didn't even look up from his mop bucket. He continued pushing dirty water across the corridor tiles in long, methodical strokes, earbuds firmly in place, completely oblivious to the breach alarm screaming through the building's emergency system. Captain Thorne materialized beside Valara within seconds, his weapon drawn, bioscanner active. Your Majesty, hostile signatures detected. Carven shock troops. Confirmed 23 combatants breaching perimeter. Safe room protocols initiated. His voice carried the flat efficiency that made him her most trusted guard. Valara's secondary arms moved instinctively to her ceremonial blade. Above them, the sound of plasma fire echoed down stairwells. The Carven Collective had chosen tonight specifically because they knew she was planetside negotiating the mining treaty. They wanted her dead before the ink dried on the agreement that would legitimize human expansion into the contested border territories. The humans had proven themselves valuable allies, but their security infrastructure was still primitive by galactic standards. Marcus Chen rounded the corner with his mop bucket on wheels, water sloshing. He wore the standard maintenance uniform, a name tag clipped crookedly to his shirt pocket, and an expression of mild annoyance. When he saw the Queen and her guard, he pulled out one earbud. Oh, hey. You guys need to clear out. I've got safety cones back there, but this whole section's wet. Broken pipe situation. Move aside, human. Thorne's translator rendered his words with cold authority. This facility is under attack. Marcus blinked slowly, processing. Above them, something heavy crashed through multiple floors. Dust and debris showered down. He looked at the ceiling, then back at his mop bucket, then at the Queen. Under attack. Like, right now, under attack? Approximately 45 seconds until hostiles reach this level, Thorne said, his bioscanner painting red threats on the tactical display only he could see. Your Majesty, we must reach the safe room immediately. Valara's 4 eyes tracked the corridor leading to safety, then the service elevator Marcus had presumably used, the maintenance shaft system. Captain, what is the enemy's approach vector? Primary stairwell, eastern access corridor. They've disabled the elevator systems and are cutting through secured doors. Professional execution. His mandibles clicked once, the Zithian equivalent of gritting teeth. They knew our defensive positioning. Marcus Chen pulled out his second earbud. The music was loud enough that Valara could hear it, something with guitars and drums. He coiled the cord carefully around his phone and pocketed it. Then he gripped his mop handle like he was considering something deeply stupid. The Eastern Corridor. That's the one with the marble floors, right? The really expensive imported stuff? Human, this is not. Yeah, that's the one. Marcus nodded to himself. I just finished waxing that section, 20 minutes ago. Super fresh coat. The first Carven soldier appeared at the far end of the corridor, combat armor gleaming, weapon tracking for targets. The creature stood nearly 8 feet tall, quadrupedal lower body built for speed and stability, twin arms carrying military-grade plasma rifles. Behind it, the corridor filled with more armored shapes. Thorne moved instantly, positioning himself between the Queen and the threat. His weapon discharged twice, brilliant blue bolts that splashed harmlessly against enemy shielding. Barrier shields. I cannot penetrate. Your Majesty, run. Marcus Chen stepped forward with his mop bucket. What are you doing? Valara's voice carried the harmonic resonance of royalty and genuine confusion. Okay, so. Marcus lifted the bucket, tilted it, and sent a wave of dirty, soapy water rushing down the corridor toward the advancing Carven troops. You guys might want to step back. The lead Carven soldier hit the water at full sprint. Its 4 legs went in 4 different directions simultaneously. The creature's shields meant nothing against simple friction loss. It crashed forward, plasma rifles discharging wild shots into the ceiling and walls as it went down hard, armor scraping against marble with a sound like a spacecraft landing badly. The second soldier tried to dodge, managed one step, and its rear left leg slipped outward. The alien flipped completely, landing on its back with enough force to crack armor plating. The 3rd through 7th soldiers created a pileup that would have been comedic if not for the plasma fire now burning random holes in the embassy's infrastructure. They slid, crashed, fired wildly, and ultimately formed a tangled barrier of armored bodies and flailing limbs. Marcus stood at the dry edge of his handiwork, mop still in hand, watching the chaos with the detached interest of someone who'd seen this exact scenario play out with different actors. Wax on, wax off. That's not actually how you wax floors, but the movie's still good. Captain Thorne's weapon remained trained on the corridor, but his combat posture had shifted to something resembling bewilderment. They are completely immobilized, for now. Marcus set his mop down carefully, propping it against the wall with the handle at a precise angle. But that floor's going to dry eventually, and they're going to be really mad. Also, their buddies are probably coming down other routes. Valara watched 3 more Carven soldiers attempt to cross the wet section by moving slowly, cautiously. One made it almost halfway before losing traction and joining the growing pile. She had commanded fleets, negotiated treaties that shaped sector politics, survived 2 assassination attempts through careful planning and ruthless counterstrikes. Nothing in her tactical training had prepared her for watching an invasion force defeated by janitorial work. How many entrance points to this level? Marcus asked, looking at Thorne with the straightforward focus of someone solving a practical problem. 4 primary corridors, 2 service shafts, 1 emergency access. Thorne's translator carried an edge of respect despite himself. Marcus nodded, calculating. I've got 3 more buckets in storage. And the floor buffer is charged. If you can buy me maybe 2 minutes, I can make this whole level a skating rink. The emergency lighting flickered as something large exploded several floors above them. The building's structure groaned. Valara made a decision based on equal parts tactical assessment and pure curiosity about what would happen next. Captain Thorne, assist the human. I want every approach to this position rendered impassable. Your Majesty, the protocols assumed our enemies would breach security through superior firepower and tactical advantage. Valara's mandibles spread in what humans would recognize as a smile. They did not account for custodial maintenance as a defensive strategy. Adapt, Captain. Marcus Chen was already moving, jogging back toward his supply closet with purpose. 2 minutes, maybe 3 if the floor buffer's cord is tangled again. It's always tangled. Thorne looked at his queen, then at the pile of struggling Carven soldiers trying unsuccessfully to gain purchase on wet marble, then activated his comm system. All defensive positions be advised. New tactical approach implementing. Stand by for unconventional support measures. Valara watched Marcus disappear around the corner, already pushing a second mop bucket loaded with enough soapy water to create a small lake. The human was humming now, the same melody from his earbuds, completely focused on his work. Not a warrior, not a soldier. Just a maintenance worker doing what he knew how to do with the materials available. Sometimes, the Queen reflected, the universe provided exactly the defender you needed, even if you'd never thought to requisition one. The building shook again. Marcus Chen started spreading water across the northern approach corridor with the methodical efficiency of someone who'd spent years making floors clean enough to meet safety standards. Tonight, those same standards would serve a different purpose entirely. Wet floor signs, Marcus called back. Should probably set those up too. Don't want anybody suing for slip and fall injuries. Captain Thorne stared at the human for 3 full seconds before responding. Deploy your defenses, maintenance worker. Liability concerns are secondary to survival. That's how people get hurt. Marcus positioned a yellow caution sign with the care of an artist placing a sculpture. Safety first. The Carven forces were about to learn a fundamental truth about human engineering. Sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective, and sometimes the most dangerous human in a building was the one everyone ignored. Marcus finished the northern corridor and moved to the eastern service shaft, humming louder now, completely in his element. The invasion had just encountered an obstacle it had no tactical protocols for. No amount of military training prepared soldiers for the unique hazard of freshly waxed floors combined with industrial cleaning solutions and one very dedicated janitor who took his work seriously. Valara activated her personal comm. Ambassador Chen, this is Queen Valara. I need to speak with you about upgrading your brother's security clearance. The response came through crackling with interference from the ongoing battle. My brother? Marcus? Why, what did he do? Above them, plasma fire continued. Below them, Marcus Chen created a defensive perimeter 1 bucket of soapy water at a time. I will explain shortly, Valara said. First, we must survive. But I believe your species may have discovered a uniquely effective form of non-lethal crowd control. Marcus emerged from the service shaft corridor, floor buffer in hand, extension cord trailing behind him. He plugged it in, hit the power switch, and the machine roared to life with a sound like mechanical thunder. The Carven strike team's second wave hit the northern approach at full combat speed, weapons hot, shields active. Confident their comrades had simply encountered technical difficulties, they discovered the polished marble surface exactly one step too late. The lead soldier went down immediately, taking 2 others with it in a tangle of armored limbs. The rest tried to halt, failed, and created a secondary pile-up that blocked the corridor completely. Marcus guided the floor buffer across the eastern approach with the skill of long practice, the rotating brushes creating a surface so smooth and slick that even Thorn's magnetic boot grip struggled for purchase. But we're working with an accelerated timeline here. The building's emergency system announced new breach points. The Carven forces were persistent. Velara had to grant them that. But they were also completely unprepared for the tactical challenge of fighting through an active cleaning operation. Every corridor they tried to access became impassable. Every approach vector turned into a slip hazard. The soldiers piled up at choke points, unable to advance, unwilling to retreat, growing increasingly frustrated with a defensive strategy that made no sense according to any military doctrine. Captain Thorn positioned himself at the intersection point, weapon trained on the various blocked corridors. Your Majesty, I am forced to acknowledge that this approach is remarkably effective. The human military calls it force multiplication, Velara said, watching Marcus start on the 4th and final approach corridor. One individual with the right tools and knowledge can neutralize a numerically superior opponent, though I suspect they were thinking of different tools. Marcus finished the last corridor and stepped back to admire his work. Every approach to their position gleamed with a mirror shine, water and wax combining to create surfaces that offered approximately 0 traction to anyone attempting to cross. He retrieved his original mop, wrung it out carefully, and set it aside. That should hold them for a bit, though eventually they'll figure out they can crawl or something. Eventually is sufficient, Thorn said. Reinforcements from the human military base are en route. Estimated arrival 4 minutes. A Carven soldier appeared in the eastern corridor, moving on its belly now, trying to pull itself forward using the door frames as anchor points. It made slow, determined progress, weapon holstered, focused entirely on achieving forward momentum. Marcus watched it struggle for approximately 10 seconds before picking up a spray bottle from his supply cart. He walked to the edge of the wet zone and spritzed additional cleaning solution across the marble just ahead of the crawling soldier. The Carven's gripping hands hit the fresh layer of cleaner and slipped off the doorframe entirely. It slid backward 3 feet, ending up where it had started. That's just mean, Thorn observed. That's thorough. Marcus spritzed a second coat. You don't half-ass floor maintenance. My dad taught me that. The Carven soldier made a sound that the translator rendered as profound frustration mixed with disbelief. It tried again, achieved 2 feet of progress, and Marcus added another layer of cleaning solution. The alien slid backward 4 feet this time. I believe it is attempting to communicate, Velara said, listening to the increasingly agitated clicking and whistling from the corridor. Probably complaints, Marcus said. People always complain about wet floors. That's why you put up the signs. He gestured to the yellow caution markers positioned at every corridor entrance, each one clearly displaying a figure mid-slip in universal warning iconography. The building security system chimed with an update. Human military forces had arrived and were engaging the Carven troops on the upper levels. The sound of coordinated plasma fire became more organized, more purposeful. The invasion was collapsing, bottlenecked at every level by better planning and faster response times than the Carven intelligence had predicted. And, at the critical lower level, where Queen Velara represented the primary target, the attack had been completely neutralized by 1 maintenance worker and approximately 40 gallons of cleaning solution. Captain Thorn received tactical updates through his comm system, his expression shifting from combat alertness to something approaching satisfaction. All Carven forces are in retreat or surrendering. The embassy is secure. Casualties on our side minimal. Human response time was exceptional. They were already mobilized, Velara said, understanding clicking into place. The humans knew about the attack in advance. Intelligence suggested a potential incident, Thorn confirmed, but the specific timing and approach vectors were unknown. Protocol dictated maintaining normal operations while increasing readiness status. Marcus was cleaning his mop now, wringing it out in the bucket, completely unconcerned with the larger tactical picture. So is it cool if I finish my shift? I've got 3 more floors scheduled before morning. Velara approached him, stepping carefully around the wet zones. Her ceremonial robes gathered to avoid the cleaning solution. She stood at her full height, which put her approximately level with the human's shoulders, and met his eyes with all 4 of her own. You understand that you have single-handedly defended a diplomatic facility against a coordinated military assault. Marcus shrugged. I mean, mostly I just cleaned the floors. The slipping part was kind of on them for not paying attention to the signs. Safety regulations, Your Majesty. They exist for a reason. He said it with complete sincerity, as if preventing a Carvan invasion force from committing regicide was equivalent to preventing slip-and-fall liability claims. Thorn's comm chimed again. Your Majesty, Ambassador Chen is requesting permission to access this level. She seems quite concerned about her brother. And Captain, please ensure there is a clear, dry path for her arrival. I would prefer not to watch the human ambassador navigate the same hazards that defeated our attackers. Marcus immediately started laying down towels, creating a safe walkway with the same attention to detail he'd applied to everything else. Within 90 seconds, a perfectly dry path extended from the main elevator to their position, marked with additional safety signs. Ambassador Sarah Chen arrived at a near run, diplomatic composure abandoned in favor of sibling concern. She stopped at the edge of the towel path, took in the wet floors, the struggling Carvan soldiers, her brother calmly organizing his cleaning supplies, and the alien queen standing serenely amid the chaos. Marcus, what the hell happened? Broken pipe in the western section, possible structural damage from what sounded like explosions, and I think some of the embassy's guests had a little too much to drink and can't handle the wet floors. Marcus gestured to the various Carvan soldiers in various states of prone helplessness. Also, hi Sarah. Didn't know you're working tonight. I'm always working. She looked at Valara. Your Majesty, are you injured? I am unharmed, thanks largely to your brother's unconventional approach to facility defense. Sarah's expression went through several rapid transitions. Confusion, understanding, disbelief, and finally something that looked like resigned acceptance. He cleaned the floors. And you're all okay. We are all okay, Valara said. Sarah Chen closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and opened them again. Marcus, when I got you this job, it was supposed to be safe, boring work. Maintenance. Janitorial services. Not frontline combat against alien shock troops. I didn't fight anybody, Marcus protested. I just did my job. The floors needed cleaning, so I cleaned them. Not my fault if people can't watch where they're walking. One of the Carvan soldiers made another attempt to cross the eastern corridor, got 3 feet, and slid backward into 2 of its companions. The resulting tangle of armored limbs and frustrated clicking would have been comedic if not for the weapons still attached to their harnesses. Although, Marcus continued watching the alien struggle, maybe I should have used the non-slip additive. That's usually for the cafeteria and the loading dock, but given the circumstances, Sarah's voice carried the weight of someone who had spent years managing her brother's unique approach to problem-solving. You did fine. Better than fine. You did amazing. But please, for the love of everything, stop talking about floor treatment options. I'm just saying, there are protocols. I know there are protocols. You've explained them to me roughly 8,000 times. Sarah turned to Valara. Your Majesty, I apologize for my brother's informality. Do not apologize. Valara's mandibles spread in a gesture of genuine warmth. Your brother has demonstrated something important tonight. Humans approach problems from perspectives that other species often overlook. Where we saw a military threat requiring military response, he saw a floor maintenance issue requiring cleaning supplies. The wax is really what made the difference. And wax, Valara agreed. Captain Thorn, I want a full tactical analysis of this engagement. How quickly the human maintenance worker identified the defensive opportunity, how effectively he implemented the solution, and how we might integrate similar unconventional approaches into our security protocols. You wish to formalize wet floor defense as an official strategy? I wish to ensure we never again overlook the obvious solution because it does not fit traditional military thinking. Valara gestured to the corridors still gleaming with cleaning solution, still effectively impassable to armored soldiers. Sometimes the best defense is not the strongest armor or the most powerful weapon. Sometimes it is simply understanding your terrain and using available resources with creativity and precision. Human military personnel began arriving, securing the level, checking on the Queen's safety and staring in frank confusion at the Carvan soldiers struggling against the slippery floors. A lieutenant approached Thorn for a tactical briefing, listened to the explanation, and turned to look at Marcus with an expression of absolute bewilderment. The janitor stopped the invasion with mop water. And wax, Marcus said again, because apparently that part was important to him. The wax really matters. The lieutenant opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, and finally just nodded. Sure, yeah. Mop water and wax. I'll put that in my report and let my commanding officer figure out how to explain it to Brass. Sarah Chen moved to her brother's side, looked at him for a long moment, and then hugged him quickly. You're an idiot, and I love you, and please never do anything like this again. I was just cleaning floors, Marcus mumbled into her shoulder. It's literally my job. Your job is facility maintenance, not counterterrorism. Same thing if you think about it. Maintaining the facility means keeping it safe and functional. Tonight it needed to be safe from invaders, so I maintained that aspect of facility operation. Valara filed that response away for future consideration. The human wasn't being clever or philosophical. He genuinely saw no distinction between mopping up a spill and mopping up an invasion force. Both were problems that needed solving with the tools available. That kind of practical, flexible thinking was precisely what made humanity such valuable allies. The emergency lighting finally switched back to standard illumination. The building structure had held despite the explosions and plasma fire. The damage was extensive but repairable. Casualties were minimal. The treaty negotiations could proceed once the situation stabilized. And Queen Valara of the Zithian sovereignty was alive and unharmed because one human maintenance worker had taken his job seriously enough to turn it into a defensive masterpiece, Marcus Chen. Valara spoke his name formally, drawing the attention of everyone in the corridor. On behalf of the Zithian sovereignty and my personal honor, I thank you for your service tonight. You have my gratitude and my respect.
Marcus looked genuinely uncomfortable with the attention.
You're welcome. I really was just doing my job, though, and technically I'm not done. I still need to mop the 3rd floor before my shift ends. Your shift ends now, Sarah said firmly. You're going home, eating something, sleeping, and then we're going to have a very long conversation about appropriate responses to emergency situations. But the 3rd floor, home. Now. Thorn stepped forward, extending one clawed hand in a human gesture of respect. Maintenance worker Chen, it has been an honor to serve alongside you. Marcus shook the offered hand carefully, aware that Zethian grip strength could crack human bones if applied carelessly. Thanks, Captain. And hey, when the floor's dry, make sure somebody does a proper safety inspection. That plasma fire might have compromised the tile adhesive in some sections. Don't want anyone actually getting hurt on my floors. I will personally ensure all safety protocols are observed, Thorn promised. The human military began helping the Carven soldiers to their feet, taking them into custody with the careful courtesy required by interstellar law. The invaders would face trial, imprisonment, and eventual deportation. Their mission had failed completely, defeated by a combination of prepared defenses and one magnificently timed floor-cleaning operation. As Marcus Chen gathered his supplies, pushing his mop bucket toward the service elevator with the same methodical care he'd shown all night, Valara watched him go. The human didn't look back, didn't pause for acknowledgement, didn't seem to recognize the magnitude of what he'd accomplished. He just moved on to his next task, already thinking about the 3rd floor and whether he had enough cleaning solution left or needed to requisition more from the supply room. That, Valara said quietly to Thorn, is the most dangerous kind of human, the one who sees a problem and simply solves it without concerning themselves with impossibility or convention. Agreed, Your Majesty. Thorn watched the elevator doors close behind Marcus. Though I suspect he would be confused by the assessment. From his perspective, he merely cleaned floors, and prevented an interstellar incident, saved my life, and demonstrated that sometimes the simplest solution is the most elegant. Valara turned to survey the damage, already planning the reports she would need to file, the commendations she would issue, the treaty modifications that might result from this night. Captain, make a note. When we finalize the security arrangements for the mining colonies, I want human maintenance workers included in the defensive planning, not as soldiers, as exactly what they are. Custodial engineers with tactical applications, Thorn said, understanding perfectly. Precisely, because tonight we learned that an invasion force, no matter how well trained or heavily armed, is still vulnerable to wet floors and appropriate safety signage. The ambassador remained behind as the military personnel cleared out, standing beside her queen in the ruined corridor. Your Majesty, about Marcus, is brilliant, dedicated, and completely unaware of his own capabilities, Valara finished. I suspect this is common among your species? Sarah laughed, the sound carrying relief and exhaustion in equal measure. More common than you'd think. We have a tendency to underestimate ourselves right up until the moment we accidentally save the day. Then, I am very fortunate your brother was working tonight. He's very fortunate you didn't fire him for being in the way. On the contrary, Valara's 4 eyes gleamed with something that might have been amusement. I intend to ensure he receives a significant bonus and a commendation from the sovereignty itself, though I suspect neither will matter as much to him as being allowed to finish his normal work schedule. You've got him figured out. I understand dedication when I see it, regardless of species. Valara moved toward the safe room that had become unnecessary, ready to resume her duties now that the crisis had passed. Ambassador, when your brother returns tomorrow, please inform him that the Zithian sovereignty formally requests he continue his maintenance work at this facility. His presence makes me feel considerably safer.
Sarah Chen smiled. I'll tell him.
Though he'll probably just say something about floor safety standards and proper waxing technique. Then he will fit perfectly with my own security detail. They also prefer practical solutions to complicated ones. The night ended as strangely as it had begun, with Queen Valara alive, the invasion thwarted, and one human janitor completely unaware that his name would appear in historical records as the maintenance worker who stopped a war with cleaning supplies in perfect timing. Marcus Chen would arrive tomorrow, mop his floors, check his safety signs, and continue doing the job he loved with the same dedication that had accidentally saved lives. Sometimes the most important people in the room were the ones nobody noticed until the moment their unique skills became absolutely critical, and sometimes the difference between victory and defeat came down to freshly waxed floors, proper safety protocols, and one person who took their work seriously enough to treat everything as equally important. The wet floor signs remained in place, bright yellow warnings that had become impromptu monuments to creative thinking and practical application of available resources. Tomorrow they'd be just signs again, but tonight they stood as testament to a simple truth. Never underestimate the human cleaning your floors. They might be the only thing standing between you and disaster, armed with nothing more than a mop bucket and an absolute commitment to doing the job right. Queen Valara looked at those signs and smiled. Humanity had proven itself worthy of alliance through countless demonstrations of courage, ingenuity, and determination. Tonight, they'd added one more to the list. Proof that sometimes the greatest defenders came in the most unexpected forms, wielding the most mundane weapons, achieving victory through methods no military academy would ever teach. The embassy would be repaired. The treaty would be signed. The alliance would strengthen. And somewhere in the maintenance department, Marcus Chen would continue mopping floors with the same care and attention that had accidentally changed history, because that's what humans did. They showed up, did their jobs, and somehow made the impossible look routine. Valara would never forget that lesson, and she would make certain the rest of the galaxy learned it too.